to the double shot with your absolute favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald, otherwise known as Coach. Coach Fitz here today. You walked in, you were schwitzing all over the place. You had your whistle around your neck and, I don't know, some kind of shirt that I guess indicated that you were coaching. You were coaching and doing your good deeds prior to work this morning.
Correct. I've got the St. Lawrence's grade 7s in the AFL helping out a friend there. And, they wear me out on a Tuesday, Thursday morning for training, that's for sure. Not sure if I return the favour. Hey, it's great to have you in the studio. We had the pleasure of sharing for you a mint ice cream together on Tuesday evening, which was lovely. For me, I think I went a Mars bar, a little Mars bar number. But yeah, good to have you here. And you are the barefoot barista today. You've come coffee in hand and with bare feet, no less, in the studio. What's going on?
Oh, that's true. Actually, I can't get over the humidity here. Whenever I go to the gym, I just can't get a hold of my sweat glands post gym. So I like to come in with my casuals on when I come into the office until my sweat glands chill out. So then I can, get dressed accordingly. Thanks for noticing. Jeez. I guess actually I called you Schwitzy this morning. Schwitzy, oh my gosh. Schwitzing all over the place. James Fitzgerald.
So, okay, I thought it might have had something to do with that cut on your heel, but no, it's just that you sweat a bit. Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, look, I am partial to no shoes. And surprisingly, in the Gold Coast, just generally speaking, but also this office, it is very acceptable not to wear shoes. Or any work clothes for that matter. So, I like to just jump on the bandwagon while I can.
And this is, and you've absolutely sorted us out with a fantastic coffee this morning. I think, is it from around the corner? Must be.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, they've got new cups though.
They have delivered
No,
today.
I drove very far, and then I actually had to put the heaters on in the car to keep those warm for you and producer Nick this morning, bringing them back, because that's just the kind of gal that I am.
Now, talk me through the Tinder Swindler. I see you've got a note here. I've not seen it. But I've seen it advertised everywhere on Netflix. I think it's the #1 TV show in Australia on Netflix today. What is it? And I assume you've seen it.
Yeah, I have. I think most people listening to this podcast will probably have seen it by now. It is on Netflix. It's a, documentary. It goes for an hour and a half or thereabouts. And it's about this guy who finds ladies on Tinder and basically, fires up some kind of relationship with them. They fall in love, or at least the ladies fall in love with him, which is a bit of a mystery. But he gets them to a point of being so in love with him that they end up basically giving him a lot of money, all their savings, in fact, and then going to the point of actually getting themselves into debt. He basically swindles them out of a lot of money. It's definitely something I'd recommend, and you sort of go through the ebbs and flows of how he does it. But he looks like he lives this luxury lifestyle, and he does. But it's not his money. So it's pretty funny. In fact, I wouldn't call him an inspiration. He's not. But I find this very, very interesting how people can just have the absolute audacity and confidence to the point where they can really pull off some pretty big things, to the point of this man getting into private jets on someone else's dime. So, I mean, we could actually learn a few things from the Tinder Swindler.
Does he star in the show?
It's not a show. Yes, it is. Sorry. He does not participate in it in any capacity, but it is all centered around him. So they've got text messages, videos, voice messages, like all these things that the producers have corroborated to pull together of what he sent to these ladies. Videos, everything on his social media. And he's still on social media. And sorry, the best part.
He's still going.
He's still going. The best part is, I don't know if this is true or not. It's not the best part, but the most interesting part is that apparently he's in Bondi today. He's swiping and hopefully swindling in his world on Tinder out of Bondi.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully not. What an atrocious human being.
Yeah, no, he is. There's a few alerts that have gone out, and they've got commentary from the New South Wales Police saying, if you meet this man on Tinder, please do not give him any of your money.
So what'd you learn from this show?
Okay, so I learnt basically what you said before. He's very, very confident. We were talking about this off air. The power of leverage. leveraging other people's money.
Oh, not in a good way.
No, not
Normally
at all.
we mean
That's
the
not funny.
bank, but
No, it's not funny. It's not funny. Hey, if you practice anything enough, you can get very good at it. And also apparently true when you're a bit of a fraudster. But also if you put out enough hooks, you will eventually catch a very decent fish. And the great man, not great at all, sorry, I am being very tongue-in-cheek, has somehow found himself skipping these fraud charges and now apparently on Australian shores. So ladies on Tinder, fair warning, he could be looking for his next swindle.
He's surely not. If he's on a number one Netflix TV show, surely he doesn't get away with it from here. Hey, we spoke about you having issues controlling your sweat at the outset. Two very renowned sweat-inducing organisations, F45 being the first one, and your local mob.
Yeah.
Little Australian mob out of Melbourne called BFT. I think it means Body Fit. They have won a massive court case against F45. Now, F45 are huge. I've got a feeling Mark Wahlberg is an owner or something. They're huge all throughout the world. I think maybe started by an Australian, but now global.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
All over the United States. I couldn't quite understand what it was that they were having the argument over. Something to do with TV screens in the class.
Yeah.
What is it?
Exactly. So just assuming some people don't know anything about F45 or Body Fit, but basically it's group training. You go in and they've already sussed out the whole exercise for you for about 45, 50 minutes. F45, obviously 45 minutes. And all they do really is just explain all the exercises, and then so you don't forget as you're going throughout it and having a schwitz, it's all on the TV screens. So long story short, F45 basically have somehow managed to patent having the exercises on the TV screen. Extremely generic.
Right.
Body Fit training came out, I don't know, a couple of years after, and they've become very big. They've actually born out of Melbourne. And they've become so big that F45 took them to court and said, hey, we've got a patent actually over having the exercises on the TV screen. Long story short, F45 lost the court case, even though they've got a patent. And the judge said, look, it's too generic. You can't have a patent over this. And basically, we need to investigate this patent because it's not like a very specific thing that you should be able to patent it. And the guy at BodyFit said he called all the lawyers before launching his franchise. And they said, mate, you cannot patent that. It is way too generic. So his advice much more recently was you can't do that. And he had to find out the hard way F45 had that patent.
I mean, surely no one's going to F45 because the exercises are on the screen. Like
No.
It's probably not going to have a big impact on F45, really.
No. I think they've no doubt taken to business away from BodyFit have taken business away from F45, but I don't believe that's why. So very interesting, very topical. F45 are backed by Mark Wahlberg, and they're actually listed on the New York Stock Exchange last year. They've got a market cap of 1.93 billion Australian. So they're pretty big.
And a bill for a couple of $100,000 in legal costs by the looks of it as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hey, we love talking about the banks. They love making forecasts. They're very often incorrect and very rarely correct. And CBA started it at the start of the year by saying that all the house prices are going to drop, which we took to task in the first podcast of the year. ANZ, probably one of the more conservative ones, generally don't go too far positive or too far negative. A little bit different though. They've come out and revised their forecast only 1 month into the year. Walk us through this.
I just thought this was a little bit of a shock. I would consider them also one of the more conservative banks, James. Many might have a different opinion on that matter, but at the end of last year, they released their forecasts for 2022 and 2023, and right now they have revised their forecast very surprisingly with quite significant increases. Some examples, end of last year, they said Brisbane, we think it will grow by 9% for 2022. They've now revised that to 16%. It's nearly double. Nearly double because of, I guess, how the year has started. Sydney, they said 6% for the year. They've now increased that to 9% that they think it will have growth for the year of 2022. Canberra from 4% to 9%, so more than double. But this one was huge. And obviously it's coming from me because I love Adelaide. I love Adelaide. Whispers.
Queen of the North.
Whispers. Adelaide, they said, 3% growth, revised to 11%. 4 times.
Yeah.
4 times out of what they thought. God, I love Adelaide. It just keeps getting better. But seriously, this is, I would say, just a great tick on how we've started the year. Sentiment is still high. The Reserve Bank have sort of given a bit of commentary on the year. And, of course, now ANZ have said, bit of a backflip, we will revise.
Well, yeah, that or they have got to the end of January. They've said, wait a sec, we forecast that Adelaide was going to grow by 3% for the year. It's up 2.5% at the end of January. Hey, can you get Malcolm from economics to maybe see if he can shift his forecast a little bit? Like, seriously.
We've done the whole year's forecast in 1 month. Shit.
They can be a bunch of numbnuts, those economists at times.
I am the numbnuts of numbnuts.
That's what the data analyst today is saying. I better revise the numbers. I better revise the numbers.
Live sound effects. That's interesting. That's thrown me off a bit.
That's nifty.
That is nifty. Correct. Jeez. Hey, all right. That's thrown me off. We're going to have a little break and come back. Right, so probably the most interesting article that I've come across this week, which you sent through to me, was from Harihara Priyakanan, who is the data scientist at the demographics group, Bernard Salt's organisation. So big demographers, probably the biggest ones in Australia, actually. She has done a deep dive on the jobs that are being advertised versus the jobs that people are seeking and come up with some interesting observations, hasn't she?
Very much so. In fact, I struggled here to take out the meat and bones of such a lengthy, detailed, and to me, and also you, very interesting article. By the way, I think your favourite article this week was the AFL one.
I did like that one.
But in any event, essentially, right, job vacancies are rising, which you go, huh? Because we know unemployment is falling. Where are we at now? 4.2%?
4.2, bang on.
4.2%. So we can see here unemployment very, very low. In fact, some of the lowest it's been in a very long time, but we've still got rising job vacancies. So there's a clear mismatch between the number of workers looking for jobs and then the jobs on offer. Yep. So example is hospitality. I think everybody that I know has witnessed in some form just severe shortage of staff in a lot of hospitality, whether in
nurses as well. Teachers, apparently teachers is really undersupplied today.
Yeah, even construction because we're going such a big construction boom, we don't have enough people.
Can't get carpenters. Yeah, there's some industries that are there's so many more jobs available than people applying.
That's right. So there's other issues too, like geography. So people aren't in the right area that the job, the job vacancies are perhaps in a different city or whatever. So a lot of things going on there. But a really good example, right? So healthcare and social assistance, there's about 30,000 people that are looking for a job or basically unemployed and about to start looking for a job. 30,000. But the job vacancy is 75,000.
Oh, more than double. In fact,
more than double.
Double and a half.
That's
wow.
right. More than double. Another example is, this is very generic, but administrative and support services. So I guess a lot of that client services, maybe phones or just a lot of, admin, essential, right? There's 30,000 people looking for a job or looking to be employed soon and nearly 55,000 job vacancies under that description. So there's a key issue here. In some senses, it's a great issue to have. Right. But this here underpins everything that we talk about. And it's not like, oh, it'll be great when the borders open back up again and international people. No. It won't only be great. It is critically essential for us to fill job vacancies and basically push our economy back up to where we need it to be. So the first things first is the first thing of two solutions. Number one is train more young Aussies. So train them to fill those job vacancies that we critically need, especially in healthcare and nursing and probably construction and the likes. And then number two, which speaks to what I just mentioned, is opening those borders, international, of course, And that will, in the short term, bring a lot of skilled migrants, students, backpackers, and seasonal workers. So
Correct.
it just has to be done.
And if you're looking for a job, get that report because you're going to have your pick of the jobs. Tell you what.
Ain't that the truth?
And you're right. We talked about international borders opening last week. And I did a bit of a deep dive on it for the Bulletproof blog this week and sort of clang. Talked about what does it mean and why is borders opening good. And the biggest reason it's good is for tourism. 1 in 20 of all Australians are employed in a job that is directly related to tourism. So that's huge. 3.5 cents of every dollar that was spent in Australia in 2019 was spent by an overseas tourist. That's another big reason to do that. The third one, though, and probably the most important from a political point of view, the main reason that Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, would be wanting to open up the borders is to fill those jobs because we've got a patchy employment market at the moment where there's some industries that are just really struggling to get people. There's some that are still on their knees a little bit, being those tourism ones. So that'll help to just balance it out a little bit. The effect that's going to have, though, is on the property market. And it's going to have an effect probably not in the sense that you would think with prices, but instead with rents. And it was fortuitous timing this week that the vacancy numbers came out. And the vacancy rate in Australia is sitting at 1.3%, which is a record low.
Like, that's crazy low. That, by the way, is the rental vacancy rate. So it's properties on the market looking for a tenant. Very, very low.
Correct. And with international borders opening, we are going to get migrants, but they're not going to buy a home. They're not going to want to buy a home when they first arrive.
No, why would you?
No, they're going to want to figure out, where they want to live first. So they'll probably rent, see if they like it, and then in 2 or 3 years may choose to buy. That presents an issue, though, because we do not have enough rental accommodation. I'm sure the politicians just say, well, it's the lesser of two evils because we need the jobs filled. Their perspective, is it probably outweighs the other. The issue, or rather the effect of that, is we had nearly 10% rental growth in most capital city markets, particularly Brisbane and Adelaide. I think it was even higher. Probably going to see that again this year at this rate.
So if you haven't locked something down, now might be the time.
Correct. If you're a tenant, lock your landlord in for another 12 months.
No, seriously, longer.
18 months, 24 months if you can.
Yeah.
If you got rental properties, then you're probably going to see your rents go up, which is going to be more than enough to offset any interest rate movement over the foreseeable future. So that was a couple of big ones. I want to talk about buy now, pay later because I don't really like buy now, pay later. So I probably do, at the risk of offending a lot of people who maybe listen to the podcast who've got shares in buy now, pay later companies. They, Alex, have been getting a hammering.
Okay, but just hang on. Why don't you like them? Tell us why you don't like them.
I don't like them because I feel like they prey on the vulnerable. They charge exorbitant interest rates to people that probably, if they can't afford it because they don't have the cash right now, they probably shouldn't be buying it. And they facilitate that, make it possible for people who are already probably, financially struggling to put themselves into more and more trouble. That's why I don't like them.
Yeah. And I think when I did the numbers with you, I want to say like 6 months ago or so, it was almost disguised as, you think it's not a credit card. You paid 20% on a credit card. But in actual fact, if you work backwards and you, take your time to pay that off or you miss a payment or whatever, it actually works out to be as expensive or more on interest as a credit card.
Correct. I think we worked out the numbers that if you miss an afterpay repayment, you're paying about 25% interest, whereas on a per annum rate, credit cards are running at about 18%. So it's actually more expensive than a credit card. It's just disguised a little bit differently. They're massively on the nose. Like PayPal, probably one of the more ethically okay ones. They're down 25%, their shares. And they talked about, or there's been a lot of talk rather, about why PayPal, Zip, Afterpay are down. And these are the theories. And I'm going to say I don't know the answer. I just thought it was an interesting perspective. Number one reason that they're down is because investors are saying, well, a lot of their growth has been achieved through increasing their volume. but not for any additional profit. So it's just
Right.
volume and more revenue, but no additional profit. The second reason is that there's more competition. So there's been so many players enter the market. And the main one is they are now thinking that maybe the market's not as big as what people thought it was when it comes to buy now, pay later. It's not growing as fast anymore. It has grown a lot. 36% of people in our age group use buy now, pay later, which is pretty
Not
big.
me. Not I. Not me.
No.
Not I. No.
And that's up from only 6% in mid-2019. So the pandemic has encouraged the take-up of those type of services. Afterpay's down 50%. Zipco is down 80% on its share price. So they're copping a hammering.
I know, but I happen to wonder, I'm not a professional on any means at the topic of shares, but it looks like a lot's happening in the share market and a lot of shares are down. A lot of companies are down. So is it a product of the share market to counter your sentiment on maybe the actual buy now, pay later being not as popular? I don't know. And we're also post-lockdown world.
Maybe we're. Do you reckon we're maybe scaling back our online buying?
I definitely, personal experience, I'm not buying as much as I was in lockdown. I think it was just like something to do. I've got so much shit now. What am I doing? Get it out.
Well, you don't have a scooter anymore, though.
No, I should get a new scooter, actually.
You should afterpay it.
Definitely not doing that. All right, so of course, heaps of sales, so much happening, but settlements. Have these sold properties netted into settlements? And I'm here to tell you, Cuzzy Bro, Coach Schwitzel, that they have.
Yeah, well, it is. The property market is hot at the moment. That is well known. But settlement volumes, they're tracked by PEXA, a mob who are just about to go into the UK. You tell me.
Yeah, they're Australian, actually. So they basically, for lack of a better word, invented or built whatever, the software that's basically electronically settles the properties nowadays. So
Correct.
People aren't running around the city with checks.
Correct. It was only 3 or 4 years ago that to buy a property, you literally had to exchange some checks between two lawyers.
Yeah, how crazy is that? You just imagine, I apparently heard that you just literally, one property, you'd have like 3 or 4 checks there and you'd have an exchange and then on
Correct.
the table you'd move to the right and you'd do the next property, literally.
Correct.
The most old school thing you've ever heard. Anyway, no more need for that.
And they always got done at 2:00, just after lunch. I don't know why. Anyway.
Well, they've had lunch. They're ready to settle properties. Obviously, you cannot settle properties without lunch.
Yeah, correct. Anyway, they produce a pretty cool report, which we read and most people won't.
We read CoreLogic reports so you don't have to.
And the numbers in terms of settlement volumes in 2021, dollar figure wise, was up 57% on the year before. And if you actually looked at the number of or the total value of all the houses that get exchanged in a year, it was $2 trillion, which to put that in perspective, it is that would be 1/3 of the total money that is exchanged within Australia each year.
Yeah, wow.
Our GDP.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. In terms of the actual number of sales or number of properties rather than the dollars, that was also up by nearly 1/3, about 32%, which is huge. And 2020 was up as well by about 7%. So you could nearly call it about 45% increase across those 2 years. Probably the most surprising bit, though, was the sunny state, Queensland. And they break it down in terms of the different states. And for me, that was my main takeaway, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, but also not. But of course, Queensland's got a relatively smaller population than your big Victorias in New South Wales.
Well, it's about half of New South Wales.
There you go. Okay, you've got the stats, man. Queensland did record the most transactions. They were up 40.8%, just to be very specific. I like the number 8 as well. But Queensland's settled transactions reflected the increasing demand for regional property because 54% of those transactions were outside Greater Brisbane. So I would say Golden Triangle, you've got a lot going up in the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
And then you've got sort of west of, it is. West of that, you've got your sort of Ipswich region, which would be outside of Greater Brisbane, I believe.
Yep.
And then, of course, down southeast Queensland, right in the pointy end where we are right now, where we reside, the Gold Coast and the beautiful, amazing suburbs are in and around the Gold Coast. So there you go.
Maybe a bit of Darling Downs as well, out to Toowoomba Way, the Ranges. Maybe even Cairns, the new Bali is one as well.
Is that what it's being tokened?
Oh, it is the new Bali. Don't worry about that. Yeah, no, it's been the new Bali for 2 years. It was an absolute pleasure to do a podcast in person. We do apologise. We're slightly late this week, so it's a late drop this week. We're going to do the quick shots as well. As always, number one, we love to hear from you. So if you do have a question, any feedback, a suggestion, something you want us to do, we love hearing it. Our emails are always in the show notes. You can use our Instagram at thedoubleshot.podcast. And second thing is, we love it if you just recommend us to one friend. We really appreciate that.
Thanks for letting us double drop today. We don't do it often, but today's the day. We're going to double drop the double shot. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.